Hello and welcome back to Girls Got Game here on Hitting the Field Network. Today we will be talking about the completion of Women's March Madness, boxing at the 2028 Summer Olympics, and everyone's favorite fictional head coach. So stay tuned because Girls Got Game starts right now. And we're back. In case you don't know, I'm Frankie Noble. I didn't introduce myself in the intro, but along with me, Frankie Noble, is Kenny Harris and Justice Covert. How are you guys doing?
I'm doing fantastic. I can't wait to talk about Women's March Madness. Last time I was on here, I was talking about Pete Alonso's contract, and the Braves aren't doing too well.
There you go.
I said some things in that
You said some pretty hot takes.
That aren't aging well, but I'm excited to talk about something that I know less about, so I might not do even better. I might be even worse.
Nobody could have predicted that the Rizzler would have been at a Mets game. So, Kenny.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here as well. That's a classic episode of Girls Got Game if you haven't seen it, by the way. But ready to talk about the close of the NCAA women's season.
Yeah, in case you missed it, UConn did win Women's March Madness in dramatic fashion, obviously. Paige Beckers is a national champion. Super exciting. What were your thoughts on Women's March Madness as a whole? Kenny, Justice, whoever wants to take it first.
I was sitting on the edge of my seat.
Oh yeah, as we all were.
But not really, because the Women's March Madness was anything less than madness. It was actually very predictable. 3 1 seeds in the Final Four, potentially could have been 4 1 seeds if Juju Watkins didn't get hurt. We'll get to that later. But yeah, I mean, all the Final Four matchups too were blowouts. I mean, they were almost nearly like 20-point wins in each game, and of course UConn wins by like 23. So it wasn't fun to watch necessarily. Also, the game started at 3 p.m. I was working. I didn't even know it was going to have such an early start time. That's actually like kind of ridiculous that a national championship game should not be a matinee. You shouldn't be leaving the stadium and there's daylight. You should be leaving the stadium and going home and then going to bed because it's over and the season's over. So I think that's really kind of pathetic on ESPN's part to do that.
Yeah,
But,
I want to talk a little bit about that because when you think about March Madness, it's this huge ordeal that everybody knows about, and you would never, ever, ever watch a men's March Madness game at 3 p.m.
Right.
Ever. Tonight's game is at 8:50. It's a game that everyone's going to be watching. It's a game that you can watch if you're on Eastern, if you're in Central, if you're on Pacific. Like, it doesn't really matter. Pacific time, I think that's at what, like 4:50, 5 o'clock?
5
Yeah.
o'clock.
So, like, it's not like it's, or actually it's 5:50, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's nothing major. You can eat dinner and watch March Madness. Everybody will be watching it. Like you said, like you said you got a notification on your phone and that's how you knew that.
Yeah.
Right. And it's
UConn
such
won.
a shame because women's basketball has been, the last few years, just producing so many stars and so many players that you would want to highlight. And for them to kind of suppress almost that prestige that Paige Beckers could get or Juju Watkins could get by squeezing the game on 3 o'clock, when I don't remember any other major sporting events being on ESPN's time slot at that prime time slot. It's a little disappointing, but I mean, credit to the ladies, they still got it done, but you know.
It is a little disappointing too because this is kind of, it marks the end of the 2020 class, which had Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, Paige Beckers. So this is a game that I feel like a lot of people would have tuned into if it was at a more ideal time.
Absolutely.
You're in California, you're going to watch the game at 1 p.m.
Right, yeah.
It's a little rough. I hope that ESPN does better next year. I hope the game is a little more interesting next year as well. But let's just talk about March Madness as a whole. Kenny, what was your favorite moment from the tournament?
Well, I think a huge story in this tournament was redemption. And in sports, redemption is one of my favorite, storylines because there's haters that'll tell you, you can't do something, you can't. And when they tell you can't, just remember UConn. Because University of Connecticut last year in the Final Four lost a close game to Caitlin Clark and Iowa. There was a controversial moving screen, and they had AZ Fudd out, who's been dealing with injuries since high school. And Paige Beckers, the same thing, injuries throughout her career. But this tournament, they came back and they were motivated all season. And Gino Auriemma, in the post game after this championship, said, a man that has 12 championships said that this was the most gratifying win. And that speaks volumes to me. AZ Fudd, Paige Beckers, leading their team, with averaging 20 points in the tournament. Freshman Sarah Strong, who had a crazy 24-14 and 5 stocks, which is steals and blocks, in this championship game. It's really beautiful to see them prove prove the doubters wrong, get back to the top. The 12th franchise championship, which is just crazy in sports. And now with Paige Bueckers going to the WNBA, who is the projected #1 pick, it's going to be interesting to see if Azzi Fudd and Sarah Strong, who are returning next year, can repeat. I know it's early. I know it's very early. They just won, but back-to-back could be on the table.
You think?
Why not?
I think they have better odds than what Iowa had last year. I know Iowa didn't win, but like after they lost Caitlin Clark, they kind of fell off the map because they're like a better structured program.
100%, and that's what I was going to say. Like, Iowa obviously didn't make too many waves this year. UConn is someone that, like, I think will always kind of be a dynamic team.
Absolutely.
You saw this year they looked dynamic. This year they looked powerful, and yes, obviously Paige Bueckers looked amazing, but she wasn't like who I'm going to talk about in a little bit, that it would have been a complete missing piece. They still could have carried
Yeah,
a
it's such an iconic organization when it comes to women's basketball that they're always going to be in contention. I looked at their Wikipedia. It's crazy. I mean, it'll be hard for you to find a Sweet 16 loss for this school in the last 35 years, which is just absurd.
Yeah, it's amazing. I am interested to see what they do next year now that they don't have Paige, but someone that I was interested in watching right now is the USC Trojans because they were missing Juju Watkins. Unfortunately, Juju Watkins did tear her ACL in round 2 of March Madness against Mississippi State. Really, really unfortunate. Nobody wanted to see it. It was right after our Women's History Month special where Brianna St. Jean was talking about how awesome Juju Watkins is, because she is, but very, very unfortunate to see her go. They ended up losing to the champions, UConn, in the Elite 8, 78-64. You can tell they were missing their insane puzzle piece. Juju Watkins, we've talked about her before on the show. We've talked about her on other shows. She's an incredible force. She averages almost 30 points a game, almost 8 rebounds a game. Like, she plays the ball on 2 sides. She's awesome to watch. There's nothing else you can really say about her. She makes the games. You're watching here. It was so insane to watch. Nobody wanted to see this happen. We were talking about earlier before the show aired that she was actually carried off of the court, not stretchered off, because I guess women's basketball doesn't even get a stretcher to take off for injured players, which is insane. But nobody wants to see this. I didn't want to see it. I would have loved to see what would happen if USC could have continued. I think we very well could have seen a very interesting national championship as opposed to a little bit of a wash. Justice, you had an interesting fact to say if USC would have made it.
So if USC would have won, which they probably would have won with Juju Watkins, they actually put up a better fight than South Carolina did in the national championship. UConn won 82-59 over South Carolina in the national championship, and UConn only beat USC by 14 points. And if they had Juju Watkins, could have been a different outcome. But if USC won, it would have been 4 #1 seeds in the women's March Madness Final Four, and it would have been 4 #1 seeds in the men's March Madness Final Four. This is not madness. This is the most predictable thing that anybody could have done. If you don't watch basketball, you just pick the #1 seeds to win it all, and you would have done quite well in your bracket.
Yeah, it's quite boring, and I think that kind of leads to what you had thought of with this entire tournament.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to uncover here. Teams seeded 11th through 16th went 0-24, and they were outscored by a ginormous average of 30.9 points per game. That margin was actually 48% bigger than it was 2 years ago. So what we're seeing is that there aren't upsets, there aren't Cinderellas, it's not madness. It's leading to better games, hopefully, in the Elite 8 and the Final Four, but actually, even with these games, they're a lot more, blowout, and it's not as fun to watch. And I think a big reason why is NIL. Teams 100%. Who have better programs and more money to spend pick out the best players, some of these smaller mid-major teams, and they boost up their championship caliber, and they're able to succeed much better and just squash those lower seeds earlier on in the bracket.
I have to absolutely agree. You'll learn more about NIL if you watch this week's episode of Nighttime. I'd love to continue to talk about Women's March Madness, but unfortunately that is all the time that we have. Stay tuned because we're going to talk about boxing next.
Hello. So I guess the crew's getting ready for the next segment on one of our amazing shows. I'm Nick Cohen, host of season 20 of Hitting the Field, and let me tell you about those amazing shows. On behalf of HTF, we hope you're enjoying today's content, but I'm here to tell you about everything else we offer here at the network. Mondays at 4, HTF Bets goes live for season 10 with 3 gamblers that, although it may not always seem like it, are here to help us all earn a little bit of extra money while we watch sports. Diego Ortiz, Tyler Brownrigg, and Andrew Gregg's ball knowledge and fun personalities make this show a fan favorite. On Tuesdays, you all loved it, so we brought it back for season 2. It's Girls Got Game, hosted by Franki Noble, a show blending women in sports, the biggest sports news stories, and creative segments that make for a fun and engaging show. Next is everyone's favorite sports podcast, The Combine, hosted by who other than Ty Patton, an easygoing, conversational, and technical podcast dropping Wednesdays, also on Spotify at The Combine. Then tune in Thursdays at noon for the network's main show, Season 20 of Hitting the Field, hosted by me. Here, we'll cover any sport, any topic, any story, no matter how obscure. We love some football, basketball, hockey, F1. We also cover baseball, soccer, and we even have to show the UFC love sometimes. Penultimately, TGIF, because Friday is nighttime, hosted by Kathleen Moore and Matthew Bracker. Season 8 of Nighttime is where you'll turn to for all things March Madness, UCF sports, and other collegiate events. We're ending with something brand new. HTFN has never had 6 shows running at once. Also filmed in our new podcast studio is HTFC, hosted by Edgar Rodriguez and Patrick De Leon. Football, or soccer in America, is the most popular sport in the world. Across multiple leagues and cups, soccer is a year-round sport, and HTFC is your news source to stay updated. Also on Spotify, by the way, at HTFC. Outside of our 6-show roster, be sure to tune in to our other content, such as the Studio Days vlog, run by our vlog squad of Brianna St. Jean, Michaela Croker, Ashley Rowe, and Ben Huber. Make sure to follow us on our social medias like Instagram, Facebook, and X to stay updated on all HTFN news. Remember to subscribe right here on YouTube, leave a like and comment. And with that, I think we're ready for your next segment. I'm Nick Cohen. Thank you for your continued support, and back to your regularly scheduled programming.
And we're back to talk about one of my favorite sports in the world, boxing. So here to talk boxing, we have Augie Aronson and Natalie Bermudez. How are you guys doing? How are you feeling about talking about boxing?
Very excited. Honestly, I really like boxing. How about you, Augie?
Yeah, I love boxing too. I'm not really a whole one to know a whole lot or watch a whole lot, about amateur boxing in the Olympics, but I have seen plenty of Olympic boxing before, and definitely pro boxing, so I'm excited to talk about it though.
Absolutely. So if you didn't know, boxing will be an event to compete in the 2028 Summer Olympics. For a while, people didn't think that they were going to be able to. The Olympic Committee originally said they were not going to involve it. It has been an Olympic sport before. They competed in the 2024 Summer Olympics, and March 20th, they announced that it would return. So I'm personally very excited to watch it. I don't watch a lot of boxing, so I'm excited to see who will fight for their country. What do you guys think about boxing returning to the Olympics for 2028?
Honestly, boxing has been a sport, obviously, for a long time. And if they would have taken it out, I would have been very disappointing because a lot of martial arts are like representing, the community and things like that. And Taekwondo's there, wrestling. So boxing just fits right in, I feel like.
Yeah, it's not the fighting sports it's not complete if boxing's not in there. Mm-hmm. So it needs to be in there, and it is in there.
Yeah, and I think it'll be super fun to watch Olympians genuinely fight for their country. Mm-hmm. So to start us off, Augie, do you want to tell us who you're excited to see compete?
Yeah, so I have the person I'm talking about is Carlos Morales Jr. He is a young man who's only 15 years old. He fights out of Los Angeles, California. You might know the name because his dad is a professional boxer with big fights against people like Ryan Garcia. So yeah, he's only 15 though. He's an 8-time U.S. amateur champion. He's only 110 pounds. That's the weight class, or 114-pound weight class. So he is on the small side. He also is only like 15 years old. Mm-hmm. So he might get a little bit. He might get bigger and fight in a heavier weight class. Although his dad's not a heavy weight class fighter either. But yeah, so he fights out of L.A. He represents Mexico. And yeah, I'm excited to watch him fight.
Yeah, I mean, I did not know who he was before we talked about him, but he sounds like a super fun athlete to watch.
Yeah, and he's trained by his dad. So that's gonna be really cool. I mean, his dad's a professional boxer.
Yeah.
So that's gonna be really cool. But yeah, he's 8-time amateur champion. So look, and he's more of a he's not. I mean, he's 110 pounds. He's not a power puncher. He's not somebody he's not a knockout artist. He is 110 pounds. So he fights off his back foot. He likes to throw on counter. So yeah. But he likes to he'll get you when he slips punches. Mm-hmm. When you're throwing and you miss, he'll slip underneath it, get you like an uppercut or like a hook or something. That's where he's gonna do his damage from. He's not gonna overpower you because it's a 110-pound weight class.
Right. We love Nepo babies in sports, so it'll be super fun to watch. I do love that it's a sport that there are such young people competing. Obviously, in 2028, he'll be probably 18 or 19.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to see what he does at such a young age.
Yeah, it's actually really cool though that like a 17-year-old kid or like a 18-year-old kid could literally fight for their country. That's not like in a war, but like fight for boxing glory.
Right, like it'll be pretty fun to watch. I'm excited. I'm excited to talk about my boxer that I'm looking forward to watching, who's Jamal Harvey. He's going to represent the U.S. His amateur career has been pretty incredible. He's still pretty young. He's at the start of his career, but he has secured gold at the 2021 World Championships and in 2023 Pan American Games. He competed also in the 2024 Paris Olympics, where he finished 5th, which isn't bad. We'll take it. But he competes in the featherweight division, and he has already been confirmed to be competing in the 2028 Summer Olympics. So I'm super excited to see what he does. He obviously has these accolades to his name already at a young age. He hasn't been competing that long. So yeah, I'm just excited to see him. I'm excited to see someone compete for the U.S. Any thoughts on this incredible athlete, Natalie?
I just want to touch on both your athletes. They're both young, and my athlete is definitely not as young as the athletes that you guys chose. But it's really cool to see like these young athletes just fight for their country, literally fight for their country. But yeah, my athlete is not as young as both of y'all's athletes, but her name
put combined our athletes. Your athlete's still older, right?
Yeah, definitely.
That's insane.
She is pushing 40. She would be 40
gosh.
in 2028. Went for the LA Olympics. Her name is Ingrid Valencia. She fights for Colombia. She was born in Morales, Colombia. She is a flyweight, so she fights at 115 pounds. She actually won the bronze medal in Rio 2016 and is the first Colombian woman to win an Olympic boxing medal, which is kind of insane.
And it's crazy that she'll now be competing again over 4 years?
Yeah, she's been in 3.
Over a decade later almost. That's crazy.
That's literally insane. And she's going to be 40 in the 2028 Olympics.
For a sport like boxing, that's pretty incredible.
Right, where you're just getting beat
up for years and years.
She's a mother too, which is kind of crazy. But yeah, I just want to see her get that gold. She already won the bronze medal in 2016, and she's been in 3 Olympics so far, and the most recent one in Paris. So yeah, hopefully
sounds
she
like
does.
it'd be like a legacy completed.
Yeah, honestly, just a whole, run through 4 Olympics. Kind of crazy.
Yeah, it'll be crazy to watch. I'm excited to see this sport compete, along with a bunch of new other sports like flag football will be included. So I'm very excited for the 2028 Olympics. We'll be sat watching boxing. But stay tuned because we're going to talk about a fictional head coach next.
Never got me anything for my birthday.
I don't even know what that is. I thought birthdays were every 100 years like the Kids' Choice Awards.
What?
Finally, he's here, man. He's always late.
Who?
Marcus?
You good?
I'd give them one of these and one of these.
Behind every on-screen moment is a whole team of engineers and technologists.
And you can be a part of such a team through SMPTE at UCF. You'll join a team of students just like you who are ready to innovate the future of TV and film.
With SMPTE at UCF, you'll be able to connect with local industry pros, learn about new technology in the industry, as well as get backstage experience that really matters. Join SMPTE for a backstage pass to all of this.
We meet every last Monday of the month for our general body meetings. There we discuss how new technology is being used to create new media, and we get to highlight local professionals and their specialties.
On top of that, we have some site visits planned, so tune into our social media to be notified of when those will happen.
So if you're ready to pull back the curtain and find out what really happens behind the scenes, join SMPTE at UCF.
If you couldn't figure out the fictional head coach I was mentioning, it's obviously Ted Lasso. We know him, we love him. And here to talk about him is Brianna St. Jean, Tyler Brownrigg, and Augie has decided to stay on to talk about Ted Lasso. How are you guys doing? Are you excited for season 4 now.
I'm doing good. I'm very excited. I was very shocked that they announced season 4. Well, it wasn't like announced. It was in a podcast with the Kelsey brothers.
Of course.
Podcast. But it was surprising, especially how season 3 ended.
I thought it ended so perfectly, honestly.
Yeah.
Me too.
Like I didn't think that they were gonna bring back season 4. I thought there would be a Roy Kent spin-off show. I don't know what you guys thought about that, but I thought they ended it so perfectly.
There should be both. There should be an extra season and more
yes,
Roy
there
Kent
should be.
content.
Yeah, as we were saying, season 3 kind of ended on a note where we thought it was going to just be over. You saw Ted Lasso coaching his son's soccer game. He was back with his family. Not sure if he was going to get back with his ex-wife, but he was back home with his family. But we learned that it's not over, and there's going to be a women's soccer team, which is super exciting. I'm very interested to see how the season goes. It's a show that we all know and love. And we might see a new head coach in Roy Kent, but if I had to guess, we will see Ted Lasso coaching a women's team. So what are your initial thoughts on a women's team in Ted Lasso?
I would say the big thing I'm interested in is like how the team kind of happens. Because spoilers, I guess. At the end of season 3, like one of the last shots of Keely and Rebecca of them talking is Keely pitching the idea to Rebecca of starting a women's team. So I assume the women's team that he will coach is AFC Richmond their women's team.
Mm-hmm.
So he'll be back at like AFC Richmond and like, but basically I hope it's not just like, hey Ted, we have a women's team, can you come back? I hope like Ted is part of the process of making the team. Like that's what I want this season to be, I think.
It makes perfect sense for it to be him, the head coach of the women's team. But the problem is it ended so perfectly with him going back home to Kansas City that like the entire last season, all he wanted to do was go home. So it doesn't make much sense for him to just go immediately back to England to coach the team because like he's in the same situation he was beforehand. That's my only thought about it. Like where he's missing his kid and his ex-wife. Like it doesn't make much sense. But also like maybe they move out there with him this time. Who knows?
Yeah.
He also had he created a whole life for himself in England, so he could also miss that too because that was his life for so long, and now he's jumping into going back and just coaching nothing, or not nothing. His kid's soccer team is not nothing, but he's coaching this huge.
Not professional,
Yeah, he's coaching this huge team. Now he's coaching this Suns team. Like he probably wants more, and I think, especially because he is such a people person and he loves helping others out. I think he's going to see this as an opportunity to do so for women, and I think that's going to be one of the biggest motivators is the fact that it's a women team, period. Because, I mean, Jason, the actor that plays him, Jason Sudeikis, he loves women's sports, and I really think that seeing him in real life versus Ted Lasso, his character, the perfect mesh of that two is going to create the perfect season, in my opinion.
Yeah, my thing is, like, I feel like in Ted Lasso, like, a huge conflict is how much he misses, like, his family and how, like, I mean, it started with him, like, being depressed about not being with his family. So I want to see how they kind of, like, touch on, yes, he was able to go back to his family. He's coaching his son's soccer team, whatever. All right, now he's going to go back. Like, is his family going to move with him?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's feeling like the same problems are just running around in a circle if they don't address it. So they kind of have
or like he is in him coming back to London is like a temporary role. He's like, I will not coach the team, but I will help you make the team. Like, that makes sense in my head. Is like they're making the team. So that's what they have to
see. But the thing is,
coaching doesn't make sense to me.
Like the thing that I would be most looking forward to with this season is seeing him coach a women's team, though, because you saw how much.
Candidate.
Yeah, and you saw how much he changed the men's team. Obviously, like you think about like Roy Kent, Jamie Tart, who's had this like, I think he's had a bit of a character development, and something I'm very
ego change,
is insane, and I'm interested to see how his like character development continues now that we'll see his character again. But Ted Lasso has had such an impact on these characters on the men's team. So I'm really interested to see how he interacts with the female athletes. If we're going to have characters like Jamie Tart or Roy Kent that like maybe they might have a bit of an ego problem, how is he going to control that when it's now women on this side? And how is that dynamic going to be of a male head coach and female players? Because Ted Lasso is such a teddy bear in these episodes that I'm really interested to see how they're going to create that dynamic of a men's head coach with a women's team.
Also, I think something that's interesting too is what are they going to, like, obviously there's going to be a big focus on Ted coaching the women's team because, I mean, his show is named after Ted. But what are they going to do with the actual men's team? Like, how are they going to balance that? Because, like, you did 3 seasons on the men's team. You can't just abandon all of that.
Because then it's a new show.
It's a completely different show.
Yeah.
Like, how are they going to interact with the
I don't think they're going to. I think what's going to happen is the characters of the men's team and the characters of the women's team are going to be, like, kind of mentors for each
Like
other.
coexisting.
I hope they do it that sense, because if you're right, Tyler, and if it is an AFC girls team, I believe that it'll be just like a huge family-oriented vibe.
I mean, kind of to connect it to Orlando, it might be like the Orlando City and Orlando
like,
Pride, where they
kinda
share
share
a
a
venue.
facility.
Yeah, that's
no,
probably what it'll be.
That's what it kind of has to be.
Yeah, because Keely pitched it to Rebecca.
Yeah.
Like, I want a women's team for like AFC Richmond.
We're also getting introduced to all these brand new female characters, and that means we're getting introduced to a bunch of new plot lines too, because this show likes to single out certain characters' plot line, and they talk about really not crazy topics, but they talk about different topics that most TV shows don't normally. We see depression, anxiety. We talk about
there's a whole
like
thing with
LGBT
Colin.
yes, and they touch on these topics, and they really show that like it's okay to be human, and not a lot of people in sports, they take it a lot of more aggressively than such in like certain aspects, and they don't think that people should have mental health and everything. So this show's important for these topics so it can get touched on, especially women in sports is a topic that needs to be touched on.
And it's a topic that's so prevalent right now. Like women's sports is definitely in a boom, so it's like it's not like they had to do it, but it makes sense.
It shows a lot.
It makes perfect sense for them to do it.
It's a great like time for it. Yeah.
No, it's a perfect time for it. Yeah.
I mean, but going back to the men's team, I mean, Augie, what are you looking forward to see them do with the men's team?
I mean, I honestly don't know what I want them to do. My only concern with the show is there was only supposed to be 3 seasons. So did some of these characters book other things that they can't get out of now because they thought there was only 3 seasons? So like, I couldn't watch this show if Danny Rojas is gone.
No.
So like, if Danny Rojas is gone, like if people like that, like obviously you're gonna have new characters because it is sports. There's new people always leaving. Like if somebody like that's gone, I couldn't watch the show personally. So that's my only concern.
We will like it's.
But I'm very
it's a
excited
definite that like Roy Kent will be there.
I want
because
Roy Kent.
Roy Kent is confirmed.
If Roy
returning.
Kent was gone though, I would be very sad, but I think I could manage without like Danny Rojas. But if Roy Kent was gone, I would boycott the show.
Yeah.
The entire show. Well,
the entire show.
But we're gonna see him now in a new
position.
position.
I'd probably be outside of Apple TV headquarters, be like, bring Roy back.
Yeah, but we'll
With
see
a
him
big
in a new position. It'll be super fun. I'm super excited to watch this new season. It'll be super fun. However, that is all the time we have to talk about Ted Lasso. Maybe in a year we'll talk about our thoughts on Ted Lasso
season
5. We will see you for season 5. Maybe we'll have, I don't know, like a rugby team that Ted Lasso will be coaching. But unfortunately, that is all the time we have for this week's episode of Girl Scout Game. We will see you next week for a brand new episode.